Court reporters hold one of the most important roles in the justice system. We're entrusted with the official records of the courts, and we also have to run our own businesses, which is not something most of us were prepared for. I'm Bryn Seymour, freelance court reporter and life coach, and I invite you to join the discussion about the problems we face and the solutions we create on the unique journey of a stenographer.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Court Reporter Podcast.
Today on the Court Reporter Podcast, we have Cassandra Caldarella, an accomplished freelance real-time civil trial reporter with 20 years shorthand reporter experience in California. After freelancing for 2 years doing securities and exchange hearings and civil grand jury hearings in Los Angeles, she was hired as an official court reporter for the largest trial court in the world, Los Angeles Superior Court. There, she floated to 30 different courthouse buildings and reported every kind of litigation possible. When she was laid off in 2012, she started doing high-profile and high-stakes civil trials privately hired by attorneys and was compelled to offer real-time. She created a 12-week real-time boot camp in 2012 that has 2 sessions a year at South Coast College. Prior to becoming a court stenographer, Cassandra worked for Fortune 500 tech companies where she managed an $80 million emerging products sales quota and closed many million-dollar deals. She left a career in technology to pursue something less stressful: court reporting. Oh, the irony. Out of the frying pan into the fire. Am I right? Her experience in leading sales and marketing of emerging technology projects proved invaluable in developing a highly successful freelance court reporting career and in starting up CoverCrow, a SaaS software platform that helps court reporters find jobs through agencies. Cassandra earned her BA in communication from California State University at Long Beach, studied at Imperial College London and the University of London, and graduated from South Coast College of Court Reporting. At home, Cassandra is a wife, a mom to 6-year-old daughter, and enjoys spending time with their rescue pony, Dolly Popcorn. So let's welcome Cassandra Caldarella.
So thank you for joining today. I am so excited to talk to you because I came across your article on the NCRA website in the business section. I think it was NCRA or the JCR. I know they're both connected, but I don't remember the title. I think it might have been the one that you sent me, but I feel like there was another one.
I did 5 steps to build $1 million court reporting business, court reporters who became judges, why I love court reporting, what I do as a court reporter, which was posted on Lifehacker, and that got 8 million views, and it was reshared by Monster and all the big career sites. So that gave our whole profession like a huge spotlight. And a lot of the court reporting colleges across the country called me and said that they were printing the articles and putting it in their prospective student packet. So that was a great,
Wow.
that got a lot of exposure.
That's awesome. I just want to talk about I kind of gearing it towards freelance court reporters because what I always say is that whether we have an agency or we consider ourselves having an agency or we just are our own agency, like we're just a freelance court reporter, but it's still a business. Like we have to figure out how to run a business as a freelance court reporter. And that's not something that we were trained on or that we ever, for me, I never intended on running a business or having to figure all those things out. Being able to make more money in less time so that I can actually put time into the things that really matter to me, like my family and activities commitments that I have outside of work, like be fully present outside of work. And so whatever your article said at that time, 6 months ago that I read it, I was like, she's awesome and I need to talk to her and get tips from her on how to do that, basically. As a freelance court reporter, you want to have freedom and flexibility. Like that's the whole reason we do freelance is so that we can be our own bosses, but we find ourselves more like slaves because there's so much work that we have to do. We're not just typing, right? We're doing so much more than that. So can you share? First of all, tell us how you got into court reporting. I want to hear your journey and then also how you found a way to build a business and make a really good living without having too much stress.
Yeah, those are great questions, and that can take up the whole hour.
Yeah, I figured.
And I want to say really quickly that I read up a little bit about you, and I'm really impressed, and I'm thinking of signing up for your coaching. So
oh, wow.
I'm really impressed with you, and I saw your goal for this year, your income goal, and I'm like, whoa, those are big goals. So
it's like my impossible goal. But it is possible. Can't hurt to try.
Yeah, it is possible. There's a lot of reporters making that goal number. So How I got started in this, I came from a totally different career. I had another life. I was like 15 years in the technology industry, one of the few women selling over 500,000 technology products through the distribution channel, and then went through software and hardware, and I've done just about everything in technology. And I went to the printer one day and I found something printed out. I thought it was mine, went back to my desk and sat down and looked at it, and I'm like, oh, that's not for me. But what it was so interesting. I had to read it. It was everybody's salary in my department, and I was the only woman. And interestingly, the men were all making 20,000 more than me, and they didn't have degrees. They didn't have the experience that I had, and I was so angry. And my human resources, I went immediately to him, and the only thing he had to say was, well, you didn't negotiate your salary well enough, when you came in. And I'm like, that's still not acceptable. Like, I thought that the offer was equitable. So I left immediately and I started my own company. So I started a new company building websites, custom template, search engine optimization. We kind of pioneered the whole Google AdWords. It was before Google even had Google AdWords. We basically taught Google how to monetize searches, and we're working with Microsoft and Google, and then Google took it in-house. But that first year in business, I made over $3 million my first year in business. Had a staff of like 16 telemarketers, accounting people. I was able to recruit one of the former vice presidents of Johnson & Johnson, who headed up my sales force. So it was a really big deal. And when Google AdWords decided to take it in-house because it was so lucrative, I found myself, out of a company very quickly. So I was able to sell off the remaining parts of the business. And when I walked away, I'm like, well, what do I want to do? I think I want to go to law school. So I started studying for the LSAT, started looking into law schools. And I remembered a party that I attended years ago where my best friend's neighbor was a court reporter, and she attended the party. It was for her 5-year-old boy at the time, who's now 20 something. And I'm like, I remember we talked, and she said she was a court reporter. And I thought, how interesting. I used to want to be a journalist, right? And I look up articles on Google all the time now and look up court reporter, and there's a lot of articles that come up for journalists who report in court. That's what I thought she was. So as she's telling me what she does, I asked her so many more questions because I thought it was fascinating what she did. And at the
that
end
happens to me all the time when I say court reporter. People always think it's like a news reporter or something, some kind of journalist. It's funny.
And I wanted to be a journalist, and I had never heard of that kind of journalism, so I was interested in it immediately. But then when she started talking about her machine and what she does, and at the end of that, I think we sat together for an hour and had cake. And at the end of that, I thought, glorified secretary. And so now I'm researching law schools, and I'm thinking of ways to make money in law school. And I'm like, well, I take copious notes. Wouldn't it be cool if I could take notes and sell them in class? And then I thought of that woman who typed really fast. And I'm like, well, wouldn't that be cool if I could type that fast? And one thing led to another. I mean, stupid random thoughts, but one thing led to another. And I'm like, I called my friend. I said, remember that neighbor who was a court reporter? And she's like, yeah. She goes, she makes a lot of money. I'm like, really? How much? She goes, I don't know, but she made a lot of money. And so I started looking into it and looking into schools. And of course, the salary that they post is $45,000 a year national average.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's 54 now, which is ridiculous. It's for Los Angeles that, I wouldn't even consider that. So had I stopped there, I wouldn't be a court reporter. And if I had believed those numbers, those are not the numbers. Those might be the numbers in Alabama or something, but those are not. Yeah. Those are averages.
I always thought that was weird. When you Google the net average salary for a court reporter, I wonder, why does it say 50,000? I think it's more than that.
Yeah, and there, you have to understand that our market is made up a lot of women who have children who do this maybe part time. They have a husband who supports them, and this for a lot of women, this is their just kind of I'll work maybe a day a week or something. Or you have a lot of retirees, they could retire from the court and get a 90% of their salary pension, and they might pick up a job a week or a job a month. So you have a lot of those that are in the mix of that salary that's really bringing the salary numbers down. But when you look at this profession as a full-time job and you're working 5 days a week and you're a professional and this is your career, those people in LA, 100,000 is maybe your first year, just out of the gate salary. And I know many court reporters that I went to school with that broke $100,000 their first year as court reporters, their first year. And I think I did 97,000 my very, very first year. And that's without real time, without expedites, without any of the other services that I do now. Now it's so much more. But coming into this profession, I immediately in school, when I enrolled, the day I started having all those random thoughts that led to the idea of court reporting, I had researched and called up South Coast College, which is now the only NCRA approved college in California. But at the time, I think there was Rice College in LA, there was Downey, Cerritos, there's a bunch of community colleges, and a lot of them still exist. I think there's 6 schools total in California now. But the moment I called them and set up the appointment, I went in the next day, and it was a Friday. And I was immediately sold. Like, this is what I want. And I knew that this is what I want for the rest of my life. And you want the rest of your life to start right now. And so they said, well, we started a program 2 weeks ago, so you're going to have to wait until May. And I think this was April. And I'm like, no, that won't do. I need to start right now. Like, you don't understand. This is it. This is what I want. I want to do it right now. I want to start today. And so the lady I was talking to went into Jean Gonzalez, who was down the hall. And she's like, I have this student. And Jean came back and said, okay, if you go through the last 2 weeks of lessons, come in this weekend, Saturday, which is tomorrow, and do all of the 2 weeks lessons, then you could start on Monday. So I did. I came in and I did everything, and I thought it was super easy. And yeah, I started on Monday. Wow. Jean still tells that story. She's like, there's no way I thought anybody could do this whole 2 weeks in one weekend, but I did.
And this is a great lesson for anyone who's listening. You need to ask for what you want. You can't think that you're not going to get it. Just ask, right? Like, ask and you will receive. You asked like persistently, boldly, and you got it. That's
yeah,
amazing.
I came from sales, so no is just a buying signal to me, you know? So
right.
Where there's a will, there's a way. You know, I grew up with that mantra.
Yeah.
So there is.
Yeah,
there's a will, there's a way. But I also never thought for a second that I wouldn't make it through school. Like, that didn't even, I know that there's like a 10% pass rate of people who make it through the program, but there's so many factors for that. I don't think that the program's difficulty is the reason for that 10%. I think that 10%, and I saw people dropping left and right. So I started class with 10 students, and I walked in that day and I said, I'm the one. 10%, 10 people, there's one. So I walked in the room, I looked around, I counted 10 people. I'm like, 10%, that's one. I'm the one. And sure enough, I was the one who made it through the program. The other 9 all dropped out.
Wow. Confidence. What you're saying sounds exactly like what I was thinking. I was like, I'm so sure that I'm going to do this. My parents were like, are you sure? Like, the dropout rate's 90%. And I'm like, no, don't worry. I'm going to break the records. And like, yeah. So confidence is key. Okay, keep going.
Confidence, but it's also the vision. Like, there was no, yes. There was no failure option. I had like this myopic focus on this is it. Like, I'm the one, I'm going to do it. I didn't even look at the 90% who are going to fail. Like, 10% is, yeah. I like honed in, and this myopic vision of I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the one. And that was kind of my mantra in my head, that I'm going to be the one. And that's what got me through all those hard times is I'm the one. But there was never a doubt, never any fear of failure. There was never any plan B, backup plan. What if I don't? There was never, ever any of those thoughts in my head. And I think a lot of court reporting is mental. A lot of it is mental. Like 90% of it is mental. I think those negative thoughts in your head are what keep a lot of people from progressing through the program. And it's, as a real-time writer, if you beat yourself up for every misstroke, you would never be a real-time writer. And there's a lot of reporters out there who are not real-time reporters, who are capable of being real-time reporters, because they hold themselves back because in their mind, they're going to beat themselves up. And that creates a lot of stress with making mistakes. And, you have to have that more of a positive outlook and more of a positive reaction to failure. Like, as a real-time writer, you are going to fail many, 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 many times in the day. It's how you handle those failures and how you get back up after failure and how quickly you can recover, which makes a really good real-time writer. It's not so much the 100% tran rate or 99.9% tran rate. And you'll get there once you can relax and have that confidence and just relax, knowing that mistakes are okay. Mistakes are going to happen. Mistakes are part of our life.
What percentage of jobs are you doing? Like 100%? You do all real time, right? Like, that's all you do?
Yeah, pretty much. There was a judge recently who didn't want it, but most of the times I hook up to a judge. There's a lot of times where I hook up to the attorneys as well. So every day I'm sharing my screen. They're not always looking at it. Sometimes I watch the judge. I'm like, oops, did he see that? And
do you provide it even if they don't order it? Like, just for you to do the real time and provide it for them?
It's my routine. Like, I set up and I'm reading my screen and editing, even if nobody's ordering a transcript, even if nobody's watching it, I'm constantly editing. It's just 100% my routine. Like, I don't.
But I mean, like, do you set up like an iPad or something for them, or only if they order?
I used to bring in my iPads, and it's worked a couple times where I'll have 2 or 3 iPads on my desk in addition to my laptop, and attorneys haven't ordered it. And on a break, I'll say like, "Whew, I'm smoking today." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "You should see my real time." It's like, too bad you're not ordering it. It's really great today. And they're like, "Okay, give me one." So it's,
wow.
I've had those kind of like upsell moments where you can
That's
upsell.
Great. That's awesome.
If you have it,
okay.
It's an easy upsell. If you don't have it set up, they're going to be like, "Oh, don't bother," So
right.
if you have it set up, it's a really easy. And I've only done that a couple times, and I had them ordered a couple times. So it's like 100% success rate,
And I think that's such a great idea for anyone who wants to kind of get into real time, to just set up the real time for the person and if you want it, you can order it. Such a great idea.
I think having the business in the past coming into court reporting, I wanted an agency. And then once I started reporting, I'm like, there's no way I want to own an agency. There's no way I ever want to own an agency because of all the difficulty and the attorneys. I mean, who wants to sell to an attorney? I know there's a whole huge market out there of people doing it, but I've been in sales in a lot of different types of businesses, and I've never experienced anything like the legal industry and the stresses that come with it and the personalities that come with it. You've got these narcissistic attorneys, and there's a lot of power and control. Litigation is a war, and you have warring parties, and it's the most contentious thing I've ever experienced. Technology is not like this. And when you have an all-male industry, it's not like this. And then a majority women court reporter industry is much, much different when you're competing against other female court reporters for business. It's totally different tactics. And so I immediately quashed the idea of owning an agency. So I've worked freelanced for agencies my whole career until I went to Superior Court. So I worked with LA, and then I got laid off with like 80 other reporters and started freelancing in court. So we kind of pioneered the whole freelancing in court, doing civil trials. And I had never done a civil trial like complete beginning to end. I used to do a lot of jury voir dire, but never complete beginning to end. And I was hooked. So I love civil trials, but I think the business background that I had before becoming a court reporter really helped, because that's where I was able to think about it in terms of, I incorporated immediately. I had accountants, and I ran it like a business, and I think of myself as a business. So it's, you look at your numbers constantly, like in sales, you have your goals, and I'm constantly having like this sales goal outlook on my career. So having my numbers, knowing my numbers, and constantly having those in front of me. So it's different. I think it's different from other court reporters that I've talked to who just, they just take jobs, and it's very reactive instead of being proactive. So the reporters that I do know that do make more money and break that 200, 300, break that number, they offer real-time services, dailies. They have a team. They run their business like a business. They're incorporated. They're very business-minded. And I think those individuals are the ones who do really well. But they also have that positive mental outlook. And going through school, I think that positive mental outlook is the one that gets you through school. It's the one that gets you through business. It's the one that makes you more money. And those are all that one constant thing, that one positive mindset is the thing that really can change. It's you can hold up 2 different people and see which one is going to succeed based on their positive outlook and their ability to handle mistakes. So how do you handle mistakes? You look at that, and you can predict a lot about a person and their ability, but you can also use that to change them. So if you're somebody who maybe hasn't made as much money, you could change some of those things and be more like the person who just naturally has it. So not everybody naturally has it, but it is something that you can change and do. And it's not like changing somebody completely. It's changing your habits and changing the way that you organize your life and organize your business and seeing it as a business.
And the way to do, basically it all boils down to changing your way of thinking, because I guess some people have it naturally, but most people as human beings, we have 60,000 thoughts that run through our head every single day. And most of them are, like, a lot of them are negative self-talk, negative, like, I can't do that. Oh, not me. Things, so many thoughts come through our heads on default, like without us even realizing it. And so it takes like training. We have to really, make effort to produce thoughts that will produce feelings that will produce results, the results that we want. So that's why I thought I have to like coach myself every single day, and coaching is a way to actually help us train our minds and our brains to go where we want it to go and produce the exact results we want it to produce.
How much time do you spend every day, like setting up your day?
Maybe 20 minutes, but I take time a lot more than that. Like I'll just explore my thoughts. I'll do thought downloads. I'll write down everything that I'm thinking. Like if I feel some way like that's stopping me or making me hesitate from accomplishing a goal or just hindering me in some way, I have to sit down and get my thoughts out on paper and then examine them and see, well, which one of these thoughts are causing me to feel this way? And then decide, do I want to believe this thought or do I want to change it? Do I believe this? Like, why am I thinking this? And ask myself all these questions to get to the root of the cause of why I have the results I have and why I don't have the results I want.
Yeah, that's good. I used to do I don't know if any of you have done the Franklin Planner method or read the books, but I got into that in like the mid 90s and went so gung-ho on Franklin Planner. I was everything about Franklin Planner. And in the last couple of years, I've tried to go more electronic and putting all my calendar things on my calendar, and the transition has not been pretty, but I think the most productive I've ever been is when I'm on that Franklin Planner system where you spend 10 minutes every day and you map out your day and you look at your priorities. And I had a mentor boss once who, the one thing that I remember, she said, every day have one thing on your list that you accomplish. And usually it's like the most difficult thing or the one that you'll avoid and put off for a couple days and just keep carrying it over to the next day. Make something a priority and accomplish that every day. And I've lived by that ever since then. And that was like the best advice. And I feel like the days where I don't accomplish that one thing, that's where I beat myself up and that's where I get a little down. But I think that's really helped. That system worked the best for me, and spending that dedicated time mapping it out every morning. And that's changed with technology. And I want to get back to that. I think there's something about writing things down that just kinesthetic eye to hand coordination. There's something that locks it in a different part of your brain than using your thumbs with like entering things in a calendar. And like, Absolutely. It's just different. And I, like you said, like thinking about maybe your feelings and some of your goals and looking at a vision board. And there's a vision board thing coming up, I think tonight at 5:00 Pacific, 8:00 Eastern Standard Time. Carrie Hewerdine is doing a vision board thing. So I'm going to attend that. And then I have another vision board event on January 15th. So I like to start my year out with setting up your vision for the year. And then every month I look at my month in hindsight and then month in the future. So, and then I'm looking at quarters. So in business, everything was about quarters. So you're constantly like looking at your quarter, defining quarter goals, and then breaking it down into monthly. And so you're breaking everything down always, and then down to the day. So daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, quarterly goals, yearly goals. And so it's always... Awesome.
We're going to definitely have to put the link for Franklin Planner in the notes of this, the show notes. Because I definitely want to look into that. That sounds great. I've tried so many planners, and you know what? I figured out that the planner is not the problem. I was the problem. I mean, but if there is one that you feel is different and actually helps to kind of like create some result and move your brain in a different direction, then I definitely need to look into that because... Yeah.
There are classes and seminars and trainings on the whole Franklin program. And then there's books. I think there's 3 books. I got a box set, and going through the books and reading the system, it's the way to do it, to really, really dive in, do a deep dive into the whole system, because then you can really use it effectively. And it's the most productive I've ever been in my life when I've been using it.
Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So can you tell us if you had to say 1 or 2 tips or summarize what you can is the most important way or thing we can start with for doubling our revenue in 2023, what would you suggest?
Doubling is kind of scary because I'm doing like 3, which is, I don't think it's doable to double mine, but I'll tell you, for the last like 9 years, I've been doing 2, and I'm just using like, 1 digit here, but I've been doing that. And then last year, the single most defining change that I made was I increased my rates. And the rates are statutory for me, so you have to do the rates that are non-statutory. So like real-time services or my per diems. So for example, my per diem starting out when we first got laid off, it was like $800. It was $700 for a full day, and then $750, then $800, $850. Now my per diem's $1,200, and everybody's paying $1,500 as like a bonus to lure us because there's a shortage. So high demand, low supply, you get to raise your rates. So my rates are now like $1,200 on my rate sheet, but I'm going to raise them for 2023 to $1,500 because apparently everybody else is already up there. So I'm one of the last ones to change my rates to the going rate. Then it's negotiable as well. So my favorite agency, if they ask, I'm totally flexible. But anyway, going from 2 for like 9 years, just raising my rates from 800 to 1,200, I went from 2 to 3. So that's one very small change that you can make to make a big difference. So if you want to double, just double your rates, another way.
Okay.
Doubling my rates is impossible because that's impossible. But with inflation, it is definitely justifiable to be raising your rates at this time. And talking about this is not like a collusion thing. This is a worldwide, hello, inflation is affecting everybody. Everybody's raising their rates. My construction guy, my plumber, my electricity just went up to like, I think it was $1,200. We've been paying $300. Now it's like $1,200. So everything is going up. Inflation is going up. I'm not talking about, collusion and raising your rates. If that's the case, the whole world is colluding, right? So this is not an antitrust. Nobody has to be concerned about antitrust issues here when I'm talking about raising my rates. But it's a very simple thing to do, and I'm doing the same amount of work for like that much more money. So that's one very, very quick way to double your income. Another one would be to look at the type of work that you do. So for example, if you're not doing real time every day, if you're not doing expedites every day, what are the things that you can do to be offering those services where you're going to double your income? So just going from non real time services and non expedites, I increased my yearly income by another 150 grand. So offering those services is huge.
One thing that I can think of for those of us or those of you who are listening that are clean writers, like you could be doing real time, but you're not because of those fears that we talked about earlier. One easy way to start getting into it is to just start asking your clients or asking the attorneys in the deposition, do you want a rough draft? But in a way that's like, kind of like, do you want the rough draft? I can send it to you tonight so that in a way that's kind of like upselling it and convincing them that they need the rough draft or that they can have it and it's going to help them. Selling rough drafts, like that's immediately an extra $2 per page for each job that you sell a rough draft. And that's an easy way to get into it because then you're working on your real time as well, but not having to provide it like on the spot, on the screen right in front of them. If you're scared of that, it's a good way to ease into it.
Yeah, and I do a lot of daily trials where I'm offering a rough the night before or soon after the proceedings are done. So as soon as we're done 4:30, I can get them a rough by 5:30. I'll find a place in the courthouse or across the street. And before I even get in my car and drive home, my scopus from the morning has my AM, PM done, my PM one session done, and I can just run through the third one and scope it very quickly. And get all the untranslates, and I do STARZ for stars, and it translates as bracket A bracket, and so those are just things that I'll global, and then I could just jump through the whole thing very quickly. And so the last quarter of the day is only maybe 60 pages, so I can do that very quickly and just get through it and send them a rough within an hour after the proceeding. So and then the next day is when I have the final, so that one is fully scoped with audio, fully proofread, and then I do all the changes in the morning, look it over, do the cover and the index, and it's done. They have it by 7:30, 6:30, whatever in the morning. So I usually get up at 4:35 when I'm in trial and just get everything done. So yes, upselling to an immediate rough, and then the next day or next morning, sometimes even 10 o'clock at night, I can have a final out. So those are services that you can do very quickly. So you want to work on cleaning up your writing. You want to do things like adding stars so that you can check and just global and go through the transcript very, very quickly. And then you want to do like your check spots. You want to have your scopus lined up. So I usually use 2 Scopus, and they alternate, and so that it's all done by the end of the evening, and I can just go through the last one. So just having a good team of Scopus who are always ready to go. And then they have the Connection Magic, or I forget what Case Catalyst calls theirs. Maybe that's
Real team.
Real Team, and then Magic. And so those can decrease the time it takes to produce a rough and even a final. And that increases your income getting those kind of jobs. The agencies you work with, and they're, getting on their seniority, getting on the totem, high up on the totem pole where you're getting those kind of jobs. So there's a lot of factors with how you can get those kind of jobs. And before you're even ready to get those kind of jobs, what is it that you can do to be real-time ready? There's a lot of real-time classes. Real-time Coach is a great platform. I developed a 12-week boot camp, real-time boot camp. At the time, I was doing a physical boot camp and lost 60 pounds, and I love the format of just how intense it was. So I created a real-time boot camp where I took all the past DRA real-time exams, the NCRA real-time exams, and the federal real-time exams. I took as many as I had. I transcribed them, and we broke those up into speeds. So South Coast College put together the program. They created all the coursework material. So we would take one exam, one 5-minute real-time exam, and we would break it down into its real-time components. So they did the curriculum, like a whole workbook. So each Saturday for 3 hours, 9 to 12, we would go through the one 5-minute real-time exam into all the principles in that one exam. And then after going through like the workbook, it would be an hour of going through each of the real-time principles, breaking it down for us, practicing them in sentences. If people had conflicts, they would resolve them then and practice. And then they started the 5-minute test and broke it down into speeds. So they dictated it, 2-voice dictation, 180, 190, 200, 210, 220, 225, back down to 200. And then we gave a test at 200. So we gave a test at the beginning of the day at 9:00. And then we gave a test at the end of the day at 10 to 12. And you could see the difference between when you came in just cold and after going through all the real-time principles. So at the end of the 12 weeks, we had probably we sold the class out. They had to open up the room next door and did like a monitor because it was overflow. There were like 60 people who took this first boot camp. And of the 60, 32 took the DRA real-time exam, 15 passed. And in 20 years of doing the DRA real-time exam, they only had 180 real-time certified reporters. Wow. So after a 15-week or after a 12-week boot camp, to have 15 people pass the DRA real-time exam, I mean, those are huge numbers. So half of the people who took the test passed.
And they all came from your boot camp?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Do you have like a link that we can share or do you still do it?
It's in person. They've been doing it since I think 2014 or 13. And they've done it every year, like 2 or 3 times a year. And of course, with COVID, we haven't been doing anything. But it's one of my goals this year is to do another boot camp. But also, they've never been able to do it online before because California Department of Education does not allow anything online. Any of the schools in California can't do anything online. But because of COVID, they've been able to do a real-time program. So I'm hoping that this year we might be able to offer that boot camp online, so anybody in the country, because there was a lot of interest all over the country. Reporters wanted to do this and they couldn't because it was in person only. So that's my goal for this year, is to resurrect that 12-week boot camp and do it maybe twice and do it online and then offer it on demand. So that's a huge goal, but it was so good, I'm telling you. And it's not like an A to Z real-time program, because they had a real-time certification and they had a book, and it went from A to Z, all the real-time concepts, like from beginning to end. The format of the boot camp is based on a real-time test. So you're taking the 5-minute test and then you're just focusing on the real-time principles within that test. So in a 12-week course, you're getting 12 different tests. So it's not a comprehensive real-time program, but it's very effective.
Okay, so basically, in summary, what we've learned so far is that we need to, well, first of all, we need to pay attention to our finances, because just looking at our finances actually gives us the motivation to go out and get the jobs and reach your goal. If you don't have a goal, you need to make a goal and constantly be looking at your bank account and at your financial statements. So if you don't have that, anything like that set up, like I didn't for a long time, it was very, very overwhelming and stressful. And I never looked at my finances. And as a result, I couldn't really grow. So if you have an issue like that, you just need to figure out how to hold yourself accountable, or you can, I'm telling you, having that awareness and looking at it constantly is really helpful. So that's number one. You said that you always look at you were always doing sales and looking at your money and your statements and everything.
Pause for 1 second on number one. In the article that I wrote, the 5 steps to build $1 million court reporting business, you can look that up. It's in the JCR. The point number 5, consume data. So if you want to make $250,000 a year, then do the math. There's 2,080 working hours, 2080. So divide that by 2080. Those are the working hours per year. So that's $120 per hour. There's 12 months a year, which is $20,000 a month. So $20,833 a month. So if you want to make $250,000 a year, that's $20,833 a month, right? So if you want to make $500,000, you've got to basically double that. So that's $40,000, like $42,000 a year, a month. So you break down the $40,000 a month. So know your yearly number. Know your quarterly number. So quarterly, that would be 60,000 per quarter. So if, January, February, March, so April 1 comes around and you have to look at your quarter. So your quarter should have like 60,000. And then you look at your month, January, February, March. Okay, where was I short? Where was I? So maybe February was 25,000 and January was 17,000. So it equaled out. So that's where you're looking at your quarter, where it equals it out. And then if there's 20 working days a month, that would be $1,000 a day and 240 days a year. So working days. So you have to look at it like that. So if maybe your Friday cancels and you're short, you want to go and pick up another thing. And that's where I built CoverCrow. Is it gives you the ability to use filters to find those high paying jobs, or to find a job where you could make minimum $1,000, full-time, a full day job, a half day job, where you could quickly go and pick up the job that you want that's going to fit your goals. And so that's one of the reasons why I created CoverCrow. Okay,
let me ask you about that. Does CoverCrow work for anyone in any part of the country?
Yeah, CoverCrow is nationwide, and the difference between CoverCrow and some of the others is CoverCrow it only goes through agencies. There's no direct cutting agencies out. I'm supporting agencies and using the existing channel. I'm not disrupting anything. So those others are market disruptors. So they're changing the whole way that we do things. I'm including the agencies. We used to have like 3,500 agencies. They're getting bought up. People are retiring. We only have like 1,200 agencies across the country. I did extensive research trying to find them, and that's how many I could find. And there's probably less now from the time that I did that research, which was a couple years old now. And I see, Magna's buying them up. Lexitas is buying up agencies. Veritex, of course, has been on the warpath for a decade, buying up little agencies. So you've got these guys who are getting bigger and bigger, and you've got the small guys retiring. So CoverCrow, one of the things CoverCrow does is try to give tools to agencies to help them compete with these big guys. And if you can, it levels the playing field for not only agencies, but court reporters as well. And so it's one of the differences, I think, between some of the other technologies that have come out, is that we're not disrupting the market. We are using the existing channel and making it stronger, and the tools. So it's not just for last minute jobs that you can't get covered. It's for every job. So every single job that you put in, an agency can have staff reporters. Maybe they have a small agency would have like 6 staff reporters. So they only want their job to be posted to those 6. So CoverCrow can do that. So you put in the job, you select those 6, and then your job is only seen by your reporters. So every single job can be done this way. And the advantage for reporters is that you have all your jobs in one place. So someone like me who freelances for 30 different agencies, I now have everything in one place. And I don't get involved in rates. There's no exchange of money on my platform, in terms of like, we're not invoicing on the platform. I'm not taking a cut of anything. It's a completely free program. So
wow, that's awesome.
It's a way for reporters to make money. It's a way for agencies to find freelancers easier. It gives them a map and with dots of where all the available freelancers are in relation to the job. So they can see the job and see the closest reporter. And it's tools that they haven't had before.
This is what we need. Like, I feel like the whole industry needs something. I mean, we need something like this. I didn't know about it, but I think you've had it for a couple of years now, right?
Yeah, we did a very small beta launch in September of 2019, just locally. And then we did a larger beta launch, like a public beta, starting in April of 2020. And we've been in a public beta mode for that long. It's a very sophisticated program, and we've needed the time to tweak it and perfect it. And in July at the NCRA convention of just this past year in Orlando, Florida, we launched and went live. So, and we also launched our mobile app companion at the same time. So now you can get jobs on your phone, and we're just about to launch the agency version of the companion. So it's just freelancers right now. And then for agencies, I've just launched a book uploader. And yesterday our student feature went live, but I'm not marketing that yet because I need reporters to go on and build your student profile. So court reporters, if you're on Cover Crow, or if you're not on it yet, get on Cover Crow, and you can go to our student platform, and you can help students get their mentor hours, their apprentice hours, or to be a mentor to students. So it's nationwide. Students all over the country can come, and they could find court reporters to sit out with you and get their apprentice hours a lot easier. So they put in their zip code, and they could find someone within a certain geographic radius, like that's right near them, and they can do remote or in person. Like for California, they could do remote, maybe somebody in Northern California, if it's with Zoom depots, and even Zoom court proceedings. So you could do court hours remotely. So you pick whether you want remote or in person. So court reporters can go and fill out a whole profile that would be for students. So you could fill out what's the description of your opportunity look like.
So this is great because like there have been so many times where I've wanted work on a day and I didn't, maybe the agency or a few agencies that I worked for didn't have anything for me, or maybe there was a cancellation and I wanted to get something last minute. This would solve the problem because you can see like literally like everything that's available.
So we just launched this yesterday, so I'm the only one in here. Unless you want to go in, Bryn, today, and you could add your information here.
I'm in the process of signing up. I'm so excited to try it out.
That's awesome.
I think after I like kind of try it out and test the waters a bit, I'm probably going to want to ask you more questions about it.
Yeah. So they could put in their zip code and find reporters within 50 miles of that zip code. They could say court apprentice hours, depot hours, remote, in person, or just find a mentor. So here you'll see the mentor. It would bring up reporters who have selected the mentor thing. It could show your phone number and email. You have the option to hide those and only say message me through the platform. So there's 3 ways they can contact you. You either give them this information, or you hide it, or you can say message me. And when they message me, they're going to put in their information, and then this email, it has to verify the email. So you're not going to get spam email like from bad addresses. They have to be able to verify it. And then they're going to say what speed they're in, what school they attend. They could write you a little message, and then you're going to get this message emailed to you, but it comes through us.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so you can put what counties you work in, what kind of work you do, and then this little, I do civil trials, personal injury, employment, asbestos. I will pay for your parking and would love to take you to lunch. Lunch is from 12 to 1:30, and I teach about civil courtroom etiquette. It's supposed to allow 250 words. So this is one thing.
Oh, okay. I see. So that's your notes for the student that you'd be mentoring.
Yeah. So this is what they see when they come is tell me about your opportunity. What would it be like if I did my depot apprentice hours through you, or my court apprentice hours through you? What are you offering? Like, how do you do things differently? Like, why would I choose you over another court reporter to get my apprentice hours with? They can just see what kind of work you do. So if you're someone who does a lot of asbestos, or maybe you do workers' comp, tell them about the kind of jobs that you do. You could just tell them a little bit about yourself here.
Cool. Okay. So students should definitely check this out too. It's not just for working reporters, it is for students, and it is a way to increase your revenue for 2023. So being aware of the numbers, doing the math, having a monthly, even a weekly goal, and checking it every single time, every week, and using Cover Crow to make sure that you hit your goal. Because like sometimes we feel like powerless as to where, we feel like we know there are jobs available. There are agencies that are desperately looking for someone to cover jobs, and then there are reporters that wish they had a job. So it's like this kind of solves that problem. So yes, look at your numbers, be aware of your finances, take more jobs by using Cover Crow, and up level the way that the type of jobs that you're taking. So start practicing, getting ready to take real-time jobs, upsell for rough drafts, and what else? That's it. Was that pretty much it? I mean, real-time is one type of way to make more, to double your revenue, but
you've got to build your team of scopists and proofreaders who are able to, so that you can do dailies and expedites on a daily basis. 240 days a year, you need to have a team that can support that kind of work.
Even if you don't do dailies and expedites, like if you're not at that level yet, like you still need to build a team to get ready to be at that level. Even I am not at that level, but I have a team that works for, like, totally manages the entire process of my transcription of my transcript management. Like, I give her the rough draft, she scopes, takes care of the scoping, the proofreading, the portal submission, the data entry, even the appearances and the formatting, and communicating with the agents, like all that stuff. I don't want to deal with it. It's all the administrative stuff. And it gives me more time to take other jobs and to work on any of the business aspects, because we have to think of ourselves as CEOs of our business. Like, we have to think on a higher level, but if we're constantly doing all these tasks, it's hard to do that. So I totally agree.
Yeah. I don't just think of myself as a CEO of my business. I technically am a CEO of my corporation. I am.
Right. So, right. Yeah. But even for those who may not be incorporated yet, or who just like thinking like a CEO, like taking control, thinking on like a higher level, will help you to have like a better relationship with your business and love the business and take care of it in a way that is not going to be stressful, where you're constantly bogged down by all the work.
I totally agree. And with Scopus too, like you said, even though you're not doing dailies 240 days a year, I think getting the experience with building a scoping team and working with Scopus on a regular basis, there's a lot of lessons to learn. So you're going to have a couple years of just working with Scopus and getting your feet wet with proofreaders. And proofreader, from day one of reporting, you should have a proofreader. But building your team with Scopus and maybe multiple proofreaders, that's a process. And that can take years to just learn those lessons to get to the point where you're ready to do this every day. And so get started as soon as you can in that process. And Stenovate, by the way, stenovate.com, she built an amazing platform. Lori Lawrence, shout out to Lori Lawrence. She built an amazing platform it's kind of like CoverCrow, but it's a totally different business model. CoverCrow does court reporter jobs with agencies. Stenovate does court reporters helping you find Scopus and proofreaders. And then she has a transcript management thing where you could see the progress. You can communicate. You could share like shared spelling lists. It has a whole different, like, it's incredible what she's built.
Yes. So shout out to Lauren Lawrence too. I'm on Stenovate and I love it. So I think she's definitely going to have to come on and talk about it at some point.
Yeah. And she does a free trial too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. So definitely that is so important. I think that's the most important, is building your team. Even at whatever level you're at, like, it's so important to have scopists that you trust, because it can take some trial and error to find the right people. And you don't want to be doing trial and error on the most important, like when you're in a rush to find someone and you really need help. Like, you want to do that as soon as possible and not be afraid to give your work to someone, or not try to hold it and do it everything yourself, because when you try to do everything yourself, you can't reach your full potential.
Oh, can I share one more thing about that?
Sorry. Yeah, of course.
I know we're going over time. Maybe you could cut out some of the other stuff. But I learned something yesterday and it was mind blowing. I had breakfast with a friend of mine and we were talking about trying out new Scopus. And I've always done a Scopus one at a time. I'll give them like 10 or 20 pages and they can scope it, and I'll try them out one at a time. She has this idea where she's going to do a short yesterday. She's like, I have a 1 o'clock depot. I'm going to send it to like 5 Scopus. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's going to do the job, do the scoping herself, but at the same time, send it to 5 different new Scopus that she's trying out. So she gets the 5 transcripts back from these Scopus she's already scoped, and she's trying 5 of them out all at the same time on the same job. I'm like, that's kind of smart. Like, you're saving all kinds of time by doing it that way. And I had never thought of that. So shout out to, you know who you are when you see this, but
I wish that I thought of that, because there was one time that I had to completely redo like 150 pages because I trusted the scopist that I was using for the first time. I'm very naive in that way. I just trust people, and then like I get it back and it was like just kind of like unreadable. There was a scan stop on every single line almost. Like, okay, I might as well just rescope the whole entire thing. And that's what happened. So yeah, that's genius to break it up into 20 pages of 20 and share it with different Scopus as like a test. That's great.
Yeah. And when I try out a new Scopus, at least the first 10 jobs, I go behind and scope the full scope on the whole thing. So then I'm giving them an errata sheet. Like, and sometimes it can be an extensive errata sheet of all the mistakes that they made. And that's a really good way to try out people. How do they handle that kind of feedback?
Yeah.
Are they going to be like, oh, sorry, oh, this is great, or are they going to be like, you're too much of a handful? Then they fire you because you're too maybe nitpicky or something for them. But you want somebody who's going to be like, they're going to be there for you, and they're going to want to do what their best, and they want to please you. So
yeah, you just have to find someone that fits your style and that you like to work with. They should connect well with you and take the directions and feedback very well. So, and yeah, it's important to, like Cassandra was saying, like every single time you use a Scopus for the first time, I think it's very important to scope the whole thing through just to make sure. And it is a time investment, but it's worth it because in the end, you're going to have a team that you can trust and rely on. So pay attention to your finances, have a goal and a specific goal and a deadline, constantly check in on the numbers, use CoverCode to get more jobs, do real-time up-level the types of work that you take, do rough drafts, and what was the one we were just talking? Oh, build your team.
There were 5 steps in that article I wrote, so we've missed a few, but those were the big. And you asked me 2 questions in the beginning, and I said it could probably take a whole hour, and I was right.
And it did.
2 questions took a whole hour. But I'm really excited about your new podcast, and I totally want to look in on coaching with you. I think that would be great, even for me to get coaching and just having that accountability person. And you've got some great ideas, so I love that.
I'm pretty much like a general life coach, but specifically for court reporters. So I help with any goals that anyone has.
That's amazing. I love it.
Now to conclude, where can everyone, if they want to look you up, you have a website?
Well, I have covercrow.com, and then I have caldarella.com is my just court reporting one. And then I'm all over Facebook. So I started the Why I Love Court Reporting group. I think that's close to 5,000 reporters now. I co-admined the Court Reporters in Zoom Learn and Share, and we grew that to over 5,000 reporters in 1 year. That started in April of 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. So that was huge. I've left that group because I had too much going on. But yeah, I'm all over. So
covercrow.com, caldarella.com, and Facebook. And I think we're going to have to schedule many more talks together because I want to ask you so many more questions. I want to talk to you about your Facebook groups. I want to talk to you about everything. So let's definitely do that in the future. And by then we will have mastered Facebook Live for interviews.
And one thing for the future too is making your goal. So you have your number, right? Your imaginary goal of what you want. But do you think that you're worth it? So your relationship with money and your understanding of, do you even deserve that? And then are you feeling worthy of reaching that number? So once you make, you hear about people winning the lottery and they have $1 million and then it's all gone within 6 months or a year. It's their relationship to money, and do you even think that you're worth that? And that's a whole different topic. And there's a video that Carrie Hewerdine just shared a video this morning. So if you go to her magic page, that video is really great. I was going to play a little snippet for your viewers on that. But I also, at the beginning of the pandemic in like May, started a 12-week marketing series. And my very first one was all about, okay, so you want to market yourself and you want to have a business and you want to have these lofty income goals, but do you think you're worth it? And so coming to terms with that and learning about yourself and your relationship to money and your relationship to your value. Like a lot of reporters say, I'm earning enough. I don't need to set my goal higher. There's just that relationship with money and your mindset. So that's a whole another hour.
Yeah, that's totally related to the coaching as well. It's all about your mindset. That's like it changes everything. And by the way, did you write an article on the NCRA? Because now that you're mentioning this marketing thing, did you also have one about marketing? Because it sounds like that's like ringing a bell.
Maybe. I
oh
did.
My gosh.
negotiation. Last year, the NCRA convention is negotiation strategies for court reporters. And then from that, I did a Facebook group, negotiation strategies for court reporters. So
what? I didn't know about this.
Oh yeah, that one was big. In fact, I'm thinking of making it into an ebook.
Wow. Okay, so we're gonna have to create the show notes. Any last words you want to say?
So just thank you for watching, and thank you, Bryn, for inviting me. And I think I'm so excited about your podcast, and I think you did a great job launching it, and people are excited. And we had a bunch of people jump on. You have a great lineup. Tori Pittman, I think, is coming up next with 225 and beyond. And then you have your list of people coming up is huge. I'm so excited.
Yay! Well, thank you so much for joining. I'm so honored to have you on here, and I can't wait for the future of more interviews and talks with you. And we will see you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
To all the podcast listeners, this podcast is growing, and I want to offer you an amazing opportunity to be a part of the team. Managing a podcast is kind of like freelance court reporting. There are a lot of small pieces to manage, and if you know me, you know I'm all about delegation and working together. Because you know what they say, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So if you're interested in helping out with things like transcription, show notes, copywriting, marketing, engagement, head over to courtreporterconnection.com and navigate to opportunities, and then you can apply there.